I got married pretty early at the age of 21. My husband was 13 years older than me, and our marriage started with him falling in love with me like he was a boy. Just 6 months into our relationship, he proposed to me, and less than a year after we met, we were happily newlyweds. It took us a long time to have children, and it wasn't until the eve of our 6th wedding anniversary that we became parents to the little son we had been waiting for. However, from the very beginning of my pregnancy, my relationship with my husband began to deteriorate. He often complained that I wasn't giving him enough attention and was too focused on the baby-to-be. I was just filled with anxiety and worry about the health of our baby, as pregnancy was a particularly important event for us. When our son was only 2 months old, I found out that my husband had been seeing another woman while I was pregnant. It was a real shock to me. I didn't throw any scandals or tantrums. I just calmly informed him that I knew about it, and I didn't want to live with him anymore. I asked him to help me move to another city to my parents. My husband cried, begged me not to leave him and not to deprive him of the family he had dreamed of for so long. He recognized his mistake and said that he loved me and our son very much. He even ended his relationship with that woman in front of me. I forgave him because I wanted to keep our family together and continue to love him. However, from that moment on, I stopped trusting him the way I used to. A spark of doubt and frustration settled inside me, and it only got stronger every day. 4 months later, I accidentally discovered his correspondence with another woman. He claimed it was just virtual flirting and that he had never met this girl in person. He said it was important for him to feel like a hunter and a man. Quarrels became commonplace in our family that used to be so peaceful and happy. My love for my husband began to fade, but I still tried to hold on for the sake of the family. I tried to talk to him, pay more attention to him, but it only got worse. He started picking on me for little things, expressing rudeness, and his correspondence with other women began to appear more and more often. It should be noted that my husband's friends always admired me, saying that he has a beautiful and intelligent wife. Neither pregnancy nor childbirth changed my attitude, but his behavior began to undermine my confidence. I became more withdrawn. When our son was a year old, I fell into a deep depression. My husband lavished me with attention, but was cold and distant. I, once a strong and confident woman, turned into a gray mouse who cried quietly in the bathroom at night. The fatigue of being alone with my son and strained family relationships began to weigh on me. It was during this period of my life that he came along. At first, he was just an internet acquaintance. We met on a forum long before my pregnancy and chatted on various abstract topics as if we were good friends. I didn't hide this correspondence, and my husband saw it several times, but nothing aroused his suspicions as everything seemed completely harmless. However, after a very difficult conflict, one day I decided to share my feelings and experiences with this virtual friend. He listened to me and found the right words of support. We started discussing more personal topics, and what started as an ordinary communication 2 years ago gradually turned into a mutual attraction. We called each other, exchanged photos, and talked on video calls. There was an unexpected and overwhelming feeling of falling in love. He tried several times to come and meet me, but I refused to meet him because I felt it would be wrong to my husband. One day my husband had been drinking and left his phone with an open correspondence on the table. The girl was writing that she loved him, dreamed of children and a passionate night together, and he was reciprocating. I was saturated with anger and resentment, and for the first time in all this time, I made a real scandal. I screamed and cried and smashed his phone to pieces. I told him I couldn't live like this anymore, and I wanted a divorce. This time he didn't hold me back. He preferred to drink and sit on the second floor of the house while I packed for me and our child. I went to the city to stay with my parents with a small son and practically no money. My husband, being a fairly wealthy man, did not provide me with financial support, probably to get me back sooner. After a few weeks, I decided to tell my virtual friend that I had left my husband and was now at my parents' house. This time he was not going to listen to my excuses, and 2 days later he was already in my city. After 2.5 years of communication, we finally met. He seemed to me not unfamiliar at all, as if we had been close and dear people for a long time. In addition, he was very attractive. By his behavior, I realized that he was really in love with me, and before his flight 3 days later, he said that I was what he had imagined me to be all these more than 2 years, and that he saw me as his future wife. He started coming to visit me, helping me with my son, both mentally and financially, and clearly showed serious intentions. He loved my son and spent a lot of time with him, helping and caring for him. He proposed to me and asked me to move in with him. My husband called a couple times and transferred small amounts of money to support my son during the 5 months I lived in another city. And just when I was starting to feel like I was finally getting out of the predicament my marriage had put me in, my husband came back. He literally fell down in front of me and begged for my family back, begging for forgiveness, saying he realized his mistakes and missed his son very much. He claimed that the boy needed his biological father and that we could still rebuild our marriage and love. I find myself in a terrible state of confusion. On one hand, I have a new love and a new relationship with a wonderful man who cares about me and my son, would do anything for us, and wants to start a family. On the other side is my husband, who I have lived with for so many years, who is the father of my child, and who betrayed me, but we also had so many good things. I am faced with a choice: start a new life and build a new family, or give our marriage a chance for the sake of our son, risking being stabbed in the heart again? I didn't expect to have any doubts left after my husband did this to me. However, I feel guilty for starting a new relationship without waiting for the divorce to be finalized. I told my husband that I had fallen in love with someone else and wanted to be with him. Surprisingly, instead of yelling and scandalizing, he said he understood me and recognized his own guilt for what had happened. He promised to do everything he could to get me back. But instead of relief, those words only added to my doubts. I was confused. I've always valued family, but I'm afraid that even if I come back, I'll be thinking about another man who has become so near and dear to me. What would you do? Write your opinion in the comments. Subscribe to the channel.